Well, we have a CPU, let's use it. Today, we're writing a program to calculate pi from scratch on our own custom hardware. Hello everyone, my name is Mike and you're watching Polymath Unlimited. Recently, I completed design work on the latest iteration of my custom CPU. I documented the progress of that design work on this channel. I'll provide a link to that playlist in this video description if you're interested in checking that out. As part of the design process, I also programmed an assembler in C++ so I could write programs for the CPU to run. In this video, we will use this assembler to write a program to calculate pi. Before we write the program, though, let's go over the algorithm we'll use. Since our CPU is only capable of performing integer operations, we need to compute pi using only integer math. Conveniently, there is already an algorithm out there that does this. This algorithm was published in 1995 and is capable of computing pi to any arbitrary precision using only arrays of integers. I made a video covering this algorithm in detail last year, and I'll provide links to both that video and the original publication of the algorithm below. The algorithm works like this. Write out the fractions 1/3, 2/5, 4/9, 5/11, and so on. The more fractions you use, the more digits of pi you can calculate. Then, under each fraction and in the empty column to the left of the first fraction, put a 2. Then repeat the following steps. First, multiply each number by 10. Second, beginning from the right, we take each number and divide it by the denominator of the fraction above it. We replace that number with the remainder, multiply the quotient by the numerator of the fraction, and then add this result to the number on the left. Third, once we reach the leftmost column, that leftmost number divided by 10 will be a digit of pi. We then discard all but the ones place of that column. Repeating these steps in sequence generates more digits of pi. In order to generate n digits of pi, we need to use 10n over 3 columns. For example, to generate 5 digits, we would need to use at least 17 columns. Now that we understand the algorithm we'll be using, we're ready to start writing our assembly code. Let's open up our assembler in Visual Studio and open up the code.asm file. Before we get too carried away, though, there is one issue we need to consider. Our CPU can only work with 8-bit integers, which do not contain enough precision to calculate more than 2 or 3 correct digits of pi using this algorithm. To be able to calculate more digits, we need to be able to work with integers that have more bits. Let's make it so that we can interact with 16-bit numbers in this program. We'll do this by defining several macros that we can use in our program in order to enable operations on these 16-bit numbers. This will take a minute, but bear with me since all of these macros will make writing our algorithm in assembly much easier in a moment. For example, we can make a macro called copyShort that copies a short integer from memory location A to memory location B. In this case, I called the macro copyShort because short is the data type used in many programming languages to denote 16-bit integers. You can call your macros whatever you want, though, just as long as you're consistent. In our macro, we'll first load from address A plus 1, then store to address B plus 1. Then we'll load from address A and store to address B. And that's all there is to it, really. This macro should work just fine now. We need to add more macros than that, though, since copying will not be enough to run our program. We'll add 2 more macros to handle branching, called branchShort less than and branchShort equal. These will accept 3 arguments, A, B, and C. BranchShort less than will branch to address C if the short at address A is less than the short contained at address B. We will implement this with a series of load and subtract operations. Note the use of subtract with borrow here, which we included in our AOU operations in order to make multiple precision arithmetic easier. Also note that this algorithm acts on 16-bit integers in little endian format. This means that the shorts it acts on have their high byte stored before their low byte. You could just as easily make your program work on big endian values if you want. This is just what I went with. The branch short equal macro is similar, but slightly more complex. First, we test the low byte. If the low bytes are not equal to each other, then we know the shorts aren't equal and we can bypass the rest of the macro. If they are, then we also test the high byte and branch if the bytes are equal. Next, we'll add some macros to increment and decrement shorts. In increment short, we'll load the low byte, add the immediate value 1, then store the low byte back where it came from. Then we load the high byte, add with carry the immediate value 0, then store the high byte. Decrement short basically just adds the immediate value FFFF, which is equivalent to -1 in 2's complement notation, the short. Next, let's define some arithmetic operations for short integers. We'll add short and subtract short macros that add or subtract shorts at addresses A and B and store the result at address C. These are very similar to our increment and decrement macros, but they use direct addressing instead of immediate addressing when adding or subtracting values. Next, we'll add some multiplication and division macros. These will be pretty complicated, so we'll go over them in a little more detail here. We'll start our multiplication macro by defining some memory locations, alpha, beta, and result, and using .byte directives to reserve 2 bytes for each of them. When the macro starts, we'll clear the result by loading the immediate value 0 and storing to both result plus 1 and result. Then we'll use our copy short macro to copy A into alpha and B into beta. At the end of the algorithm, we'll use our copy short to copy the result into C. To actually generate the result, we'll use a fast integer multiplication algorithm based on adding and shifting. Basically what we want to do is, for each bit of B, if that bit is a 1, then we'll add A to the result. Then we'll left shift A by 1 place. To implement this algorithm, we'll set up a loop structure. If beta is greater than 0, then we continue the loop. Otherwise, we jump to the end. If we continue, we check if the lowest bit of beta is 1, and if so, we add alpha to the result. Then we left shift alpha, then we right shift beta, then jump back to the top of the loop. Note that in order to check if beta is greater than 0, we need to define a global memory location called 0 and initialize it with 2 0 bytes. Now, let's implement a division algorithm. Our macro will divide short A by short B and store the quotient in C and the remainder in D. We'll define 2 locations, quotient and remainder. First, we copy A into remainder. Then we 0 the quotient. Then we go into a loop. In the loop, we test if the remainder is less than B, and branch to the end if it is. Then we subtract B from the remainder and increment the quotient. At the end, we copy the quotient into C and the remainder into D. This division algorithm is fairly simple, but it can also be pretty slow if you're dividing large numbers by small numbers. I may see if I can implement a more efficient division algorithm in the future, but this one seems to work well enough for now. We're almost done writing macros, but we'll add 2 more to make our lives easier since we'll be dealing with arrays. These macros will handle array indexing for us. These macros will be called short from array and short to array, respectively, and they will handle getting shorts from arrays and storing shorts to arrays. In short to array, we first want to multiply the index by 2 to get how many bytes we should offset from the array's location. We store this value in a pointer, then add to it the value of the address of the array. Finally, we copy from X into the memory pointed to by our pointer. Note the jump command, which is necessary to jump the program execution past the pointer, which has been reserved in memory by the macro. Short from array is very similar, except that we need to load using the pointer and store to X, instead of loading from X and storing using the pointer. With all the macros written, we're finally ready to actually start writing the algorithm into our program. We'll essentially be translating this C++ program that I wrote into assembly code. The C++ program was also itself translated from a Pascal program that the original authors of this algorithm presented in their paper. The very first thing we need to do is reserve from memory for our variables. We'll have 9 variables: n, len, I, j, X, Q, nines, predigit, and A. They will all get used for different purposes in the algorithm. For convenience, along with our 0 constant, we'll define 1, 2, and 10 constants for use in our program. At the top of our file, we'll also define some values for our program to use. Num digits will be the number of digits of pi we wish to calculate. Array length will be the size of our integer array, and console will simply be the location to which we have mapped our console output in memory. The very first thing we want our program to do is initialize all the variables. We'll initialize the n variable with the value of num digits, and we'll initialize the len variable to the value of array length. All the other variables are initialized to 0. Next, we need to initialize our array to contain all 2's. We'll do this with a simple for loop structure, which loops through the array and sets each element to 2. Now, we simply need to carry out the steps of the algorithm in order to calculate the digits of pi. This turns out to be a bit more complicated than it seems at first, though. One of the wacky things about this algorithm is that we can sometimes get 10 as a digit. We can correct this by setting the digit to 0 and adding 1 to the previous digit. This might seem pretty straightforward, but it gets kind of complicated when you're dealing with console output in assembly programs. We'll go through each step carefully here. We'll start by making a second for loop that loops through all the digits we want to calculate. In this loop, we set q to 0. Then we make a third for loop that loops through our array in reverse, nested inside our second for loop. In this third for loop, we implement the steps of the algorithm for each array index. I'll leave the details for you to work out here, but I've included more standard C-style code as comments here in order to make it a little easier to understand what the assembly code is actually doing. After the third for loop ends, we extract the digit of pi by dividing the short at the start of the array by 10. Then we need to check to see if the digit is 9 or 10. If the digit is 9, then we increment the nines variable. If the digit is 10, then we store the value of predigit to the console, then enter a fourth for loop where we output a 9 for every 9 we have encountered. After this for loop ends, we zero the predigit. In all other cases other than 9 or 10, we simply write the predigit to the console and copy q into predigit, then loop through all the 9's and write them to the console. I also added this short block of code here that handles printing the decimal point in the correct spot and deleting the extra leading 0 that seems to crop up with this algorithm. Once our main for loop has ended, we just print the last predigit to the console and halt the program. Well, we have our program, but does it work? Let's find out. I have num digits set to 5, so let's assemble our program and load it into our Logisim CPU's RAM and see if we get 5 correct digits of pi. And after loading and running the program, we should see that we do indeed get 5 correct digits. Well, now you should have a better idea of how to actually write software for this CPU, should you want to try your hand at it yourself. I'll provide a link to my GitHub in this video description, where you can find all of the related files for this project, including the Logisim file, the CPP file for the assembler, and the assembly code for this Pi program. My end goal for this project is to build this CPU for real out of actual transistors at some point in the near future. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it when that phase of this project starts. In the meantime, if you have any ideas for programs you want to see me run on this processor, make sure to let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching, thanks to all my subscribers, and I will see you next time.